and he was made a temporary brigadier general. So a lot of commissions in World War One were obviously not permanent. And between the wars, he continued to work in the military, but he had to take a resignation in rank. And he started off the post-World War interwar period as a lieutenant colonel, partly also unemployed at times because there was just no space for him to command. Because at times he literally got promoted and there was just no unit of size to command. This was pretty evident in March 1932 when Wavell was an aide-de-camp to King George V, impressed him that he got a promotion a year later to the rank of Major General. However, there was no division for him to command. It's a bit amusing, actually. And then in 1937, he transfers to Palestine, which will be the core geographical location, you could say, at the start of the British Middle Eastern Command. And he was pretty much fighting a counterinsurgency battle in the build-up to the Second World War. And this is actually quite interesting that he was pretty much opposed to Zionism, even calling the Balfour Declaration a huge mistake, or Churchill's decisions to, arm the Jewish residents to try to take up arms against the pro-Axis forces in Palestine and Iraq as a big blunder. Wavell, like many officers, also detested Neville Chamberlain, not for his supposed appeasement, because Neville Chamberlain was pretty aggressive in rearming Britain. It's just that he prioritized the Air Force and Navy and not the Army, which no doubt hurt every senior Army officer's sentiments. And 1938, he's made GOC, General Officer Commanding in Chief for the Southern Command of UK. And in July 1939, he moves to the Middle East with the same rank. Now, as war looms, he is actually pretty unassuming to most people. Even one British liaison official, General Sir Miles Lampson, who was the British ambassador to Egypt, he initially said Wavell, because he's pretty stoic, man of few words, shy and reserved. But once you get to know him, everyone had nothing but terrific things to tell about him as a person. He worked pretty well with Admiral Andrew Brown Cunningham, who's the commander of the Mediterranean Fleet. And they initially are focused on what is going to happen when the Italians join the war. And as we'll see, his command keeps getting extended as Italy enters the war because he has to protect British possessions in Egypt and Palestine, which the most critical asset being the Suez Canal. And at that time, he has about 80,000 soldiers at most across his entire command. And in June 1940, they go up against 600,000. They're technically 600,000 Italian soldiers at his doorstep. And given the harsh conditions of the desert, he takes time to train his men so that they're accustomed to it, which is actually a pretty good move, if you ask me. And he also holds back a pretty significant portion of his men in Alexandria and Cairo. That's actually due to the King Farouk of Egypt, who was openly anti-British, so that to deter him from trying anything. And Wavell will have initial success against the Italians, led by Major General Richard O'Connor's Operation Crusader. He also blunts the assaults into Ethiopia and prepares to launch counter-offensives. But he does not get along with Churchill. Churchill thinks because of his reserved nature and being a man of few words, he's a defeatist. He's more of a realist. And Churchill keeps wondering why Wavell is not attacking with force. Why is he asking for more men? Because Churchill in the War Office in London will see a paper that says, okay, there are 10 divisions with 150,000 men. not considering which divisions are combat ready, which divisions are still recuperating or under repair. He just sees a number on a piece of paper. In Wavell's job, he has to ma- manage so many different people of different languages and such. It's pretty impressive what he does, but unfortunately, his death blow comes for the Middle East when there is a pro-Axis uprising in Iraq, and Churchill wants someone to stop it. He asks Wavell first, and Wavell, who's already been overstretched because he is now responsible for the British forces in the Balkans camping at the same time, says he cannot send anything. Whereas the GOC for India, General Sir Claude Auchinleck, was able to dispatch initially a brigade followed by a division and a few more brigades and quell the uprising. That pretty much earned him Churchill's gratitude for the moment, and he then reassigned Wavell to India. Basically, Auchinleck and Wavell switched commands, and his first foray here is going to be the Malayan campaign. He would later be also the commander of Abdacom, something we've discussed in our other episodes as well, and would later also become the Viceroy of India, but would play a great administrative role for the British Indian Army in the second half of the war as they revamped themselves.
That would be, as Churchill said it, as he was kicked up the stairs.
I really like this concept of promoting up people you don't like to get them away.
Yeah. And just for the audio audience, I'm just going to put up a map that just shows the Malayan campaign all the way at the top when we started from the borders of Thailand and the multiple landings in the northeastern parts of Malaya. And then we had gone through this entire series through each coast with some amphibious hooks, mind you, all the way down to this little island here that's disattached from the mainland, known as Singapore, for those who don't know their geography.
I think, Greg, could you just scroll up a little bit on this map?
Hmm?
Just to the top.
Oh, yeah.
As we know, the invasion started in middle of December.
Mhm.
In 6 weeks, the Japanese army marched down 800 miles, the length
Yeah.
of the Malayan Peninsula.
Well, they technically
6 weeks,
they
800 miles. It's
bicycled
pretty
800
impressive.
miles. They bicycled 800 miles, famously. But yeah. And
Bicycle blitzkrieg.
I have multiple maps for the fall of Singapore. It's quite famous and it's been thoroughly done. So I'm going to just like periodically change the maps because they all have a distinct feature and they kind of give different perspectives on the units and what was important to whoever made these maps. I'll put this first one up. Some of them are a little crude. I have a decent one that'll probably go up most of the time. But again, for you audio listeners, I really do recommend watching us on YouTube. But I will desist